Hello, class. This time we're going to talk about some test taking strategies. I thought this would be a good video or lecture to discuss some of the important ways that we can prepare for our test, and then also within the test, things that we can do to help us get a better grade. So, I've taken quite a few tests in my life, and I just wanted to share some of the things I've learned that work well. So, the first question is, what are your test taking strategies? So do you have any process for things that you do during a test? Just do you just do every question in order? Do you just go like 1 through 10 right in order, or how do you like to prepare? Or do you like to study in the week ahead of time? I was just kind of curious to get us started thinking about what is your routine? What do you usually do before, during, and how do you prepare? So, some good questions to start thinking. So, the first thing I want to say is we should be nice and prepared. This should go without saying, but please, please study. We need to study to be prepared. Many types of questions will be worded slightly differently to the test just to test if you truly understand. So for example, a lot of the review sheets might look very similar to the exam but won't be word for word the same. So I'm not just going to give you our review and then give you the same thing on the test. They're going to look or be worded slightly different to make sure you truly understand and aren't just copying what you've learned. And then spend as much time as it takes for you to fully understand. This is different for everyone, and everyone does this very differently. Some people like to rewrite all their notes. Some people like to just read through their notes a couple times, and some people don't even need to study at all. They can just learn it the first time. I would encourage you guys to rewrite it, or at least that's what worked best for me when I really needed to do well on a test, or I should say wanted to do well. I would spend hours rewriting my notes until they were memorized. So before the test, some good things to do. First and foremost, get a good night's sleep the night before. If I'm tired, if we're tired before our test, usually our brain doesn't work as well. So we need to have a lot of rest. We need to eat a good breakfast or a snack, and so we have energy for our brain to think. We need lots of water. That's really important too. If we have a headache or we're dehydrated, our brains will not be working as well. And then also we need to take a moment to relax. So sometimes I will get really stressed, or we can all get very stressed and worried about the test and the result of it, and we just need to relax. So some things to have a routine to help you relax, or maybe singing a calming song quietly to yourself before the test, maybe even saying a prayer or reading some affirmation, some good positive words, just so that your mind is at a good place when we're starting our test and going through it. So also it's important to listen to instructions and last minute tips. So this whole week, anything that I might say might give some hints for our test. So make sure we pay attention to any verbal instructions, maybe on our Zoom calls. And also it's very important to give important clarifying points and tips. And then do not be afraid to ask if you have missed something, missed an answer, or don't understand something. Ask, ask, ask. Another tip that has worked for me in the past is what's called a memory dump. So as soon as I receive a test, I'll start writing down things that I might forget. For me, this was really helpful when I was doing a lot of equations. Or maybe even there's some numbers that are called constants, so like never changing. Pi, for example, 3.14159 is a good one just to write down right away so you wouldn't forget it. If it's maybe a history test and there's some dates that we need to remember that you just know you might forget after 10 minutes of taking the test, that's important to write down. Or a list. So we have a couple lists that are going to be on our test, so it's important to maybe write those down. Or even maybe an answer you are struggling to remember. So something that you may have been really hard to learn or to remember when you were studying, start with that question. It's very important to read our questions carefully. So we want to make sure that we fully understand what the question is asking so that we can answer correctly. We want to look for keywords to help us. So maybe a word from a definition or an important term. Some other words that are really important is the word not, or check all that apply. So we've seen a couple examples of either me or when I put not in a question, that means that we should circle everything but what the question is asking. So not is very important. Again, do not be afraid to ask for clarifying points. This is really important. I often and teachers often make mistakes and can be confusing, so please ask. And over the years, I found a lot of errors on my tests from different teachers. So if there is a mistake, it's likely, very likely, I just made a mistake. So please ask for questions and clarification. The next thing is plan your time well. So use your time well. So if we are going through our test or looking through it and there's really difficult questions, we want to use most of our time for those difficult sections. And we also want to plan time to review our answers at the very end. So the first thing I like to do when I receive a test is I like to start by looking over the whole test and reading every question very quickly, just so I kind of know where are going to be the harder parts and maybe where are the easier parts. Then I answer the easiest questions first and then go to the hard ones. So I'll answer maybe even out of order. I might answer question 1, 6, 10, and 12 and then go back through. If I know the answer by heart, I start with those ones. And then at the very end, once I finish the whole test, I review it. But if there's one I was unsure of, I go with my very first answer. Oftentimes, the first thing you think of is correct. So if you maybe are, on the fence, maybe you're not sure if it's A or B or C or A, you stick with your first answer because that's usually correct. There's been lots of times I've went back and changed things and I had the right answer the first time. So definitely stick with your gut. The review is also just important to make sure you're writing everything that you know. So I've done this sometimes where I wrote something out and gone to the next question and wanted to add some more information at the end. Or I've looked through my test before, and since I go out of order, I haven't answered a whole question. So I need to make sure I've answered all the questions before I'm done. So that's kind of how I like to plan my time. It's also important to look for clues. So we want to use information from other questions to help us. If there are a lot of multiple choice, the answers may be correct to another question. So this is something I do a lot, is I'll give you a multiple choice question while the answers are correct to maybe D is the correct answer to number 12, but the question number that you're actually doing is number 11. So it's important to try to use our multiple choice to help us later on, and it can also help us with other questions. Maybe, for example, we're listing out our three things that all cells have in common. And then I ask about macromolecules later in the test. 3 of those things the cells have in common are macromolecules. So you can use that to help you. Also, another important thing when we're doing multiple choice is the process of elimination. So if we know that one answer is incorrect, we can cross it out, and then we only have maybe 3 or 2 answers to choose from rather than a lot, than all 4. So process of elimination is super important, especially when we're unsure about the answer. It can help at least get us closer to guessing the right answer. And then please, please, please answer every question. Never leave a question blank. At least guess at it because you might be correct. We can use other questions to give you ideas on important words or phrases to use maybe. If you can't remember a full phrase or definition or list, Write as much as you can possibly remember. Even maybe leave a blank word that you're missing. If you know like a definition and you're just missing like one keyword that you don't know, it's okay to leave it blank. The more you can show me that you know, and the more you can show me your own understanding, the more points I can give you. So it also goes the other way though. If you're writing a lot and you start going on a tangent and saying things that clearly show that you don't know something, that's not good. But the more you can show me what you know is always better. Um, Also, it's super important to stay confident and be positive. So you will do your best if you're confident during the test. Any thoughts like, oh, I don't know this, or I'm going to fail, or I am stupid are never helpful. They're always bad, and they make you do worse. So I call these shame spirals. So these thoughts lead to shame spirals, which just maybe will not let us, well, will maybe get so bad that we can't even finish our test, or maybe we just do really poorly because we're not being confident. So if you do not know something, it is okay. I am not expecting everyone to get 100% on the test. So please do not expect to get 100, or try to work hard to get 100. But if you're in the middle of the test and you're not sure, do not get worked up or upset about not knowing every answer. Also, this is some great advice I once heard from a good teacher. She always told us you are more than just a test score. So one test does not change who you are. A little secret of mine, I have failed many tests in my life. It happens. It's okay. Remember, you are capable, you are smart, and you are all hardworking students. Also, there are many reasons that we can fail a test. A lot of it can do just by maybe how we sleep, maybe stress at home, being sick, maybe we are behind because we had to help our parents work in their business, or maybe we had to watch our siblings so we didn't have as much time to study. There's lots of reasons why tests don't go well, and that doesn't mean you are not smart, that doesn't mean you are not capable, and that doesn't mean you aren't hardworking. I believe every single one of you guys are those three things. So stay confident and know that you are great, great kids, great students. Awesome. That's all I have. If you guys have any other questions or even some tips of your own that you have done that help you study, please let me know. I'm always curious to see how everyone is different in their study habits. So, thank you.